Hello, my little squirrels. I would like to inform you that what you are about to listen to are our views and comments from the host. Guests only reflect their own view and not the community as a whole. Not all those squirrels out there, I mean. I hope you enjoy the podcast and Eddie play that banter section. Whoop whoop!
I haven't recorded a podcast in about a month, since last year.
Oh, yeah, well. Yeah.
So I do feel really out of practice about doing podcasting, so I hope I haven't forgotten anything. Yeah.
We'll soon find out.
Wow, thanks, Kev, I think. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Ed, you'll be fine. You've done almost 200 of these. Yeah, you'll be fine. Jeez.
But does it feel like everyone's starting over again?
Oh, God, it really does, actually. Oh, God. Right. Hello, everybody. This is the Ed Talk About podcast, a weekly podcast talking about cosplay, Comic-Con, and everything else. I'm your host, Eddie, and this week we are talking about how do I take a photo? How do I take my first photo? So basically, wait, no, I've forgotten. Oh shit, I've already forgotten my format of my podcast. Shit, fuck. But joining us on the podcast is Kev of Kev Pack Photography or cosplay.co.uk, whatever you want to call yourself today.
Kev will do.
Kev will do, yes. Jesus.
This is going well so far.
Yes. I've got to edit this ready for tomorrow. So full disclosure, I've forgotten that I hadn't had nothing pre-recorded to get edited to go up for Wednesday. So I'm like, oh God, how am I going to do this? Do I skip a week? Oh no, I haven't.
How could you possibly do that?
I know. We were talking about this yesterday, weren't we? Oh.
You sometimes need to take a break.
I
take
do.
A step back.
To be fair, no, honestly, that the 4 weeks of not actually properly recording and editing podcasts was so helpful. So helpful. And I was just talking to someone on Facebook about it. I'll say, it's really nice that I was able to just sit down for 2 weeks and just bash out all the photos from last year. I've only got one more set to go, and then all of 2023 are done. All of it. I'm so happy. And the other guy I was talking to, he goes, I've only had 2 days off. I'll go, okay.
Yeah, well, I only had Christmas Day and Boxing Day.
Oh, whoopsie. Yikes. But also don't care. No, I do care.
No.
I do care. I know, I really do care. No, but yes, it's just nice to able to, what's the word? Just knock it out and just sit and concentrate. It was basically, we will talk about the main podcast later, but I got a prep subscription and I went, do you know what? I'm going to make use of that subscription, go down a prep, find a table with a plug and just sit there all day knocking out these. So knocking out sounds a really weird expression. Just editing out each of these photographs and just getting it through. And I think, I can't remember if I was at the Photoshop stage. No, I was at the Photoshop stage, but I don't know how much I already started before I sat there. But in 4 days, I literally got it all cleared of MCM London. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Less distractions because you've actually had to go somewhere and sit down.
Oh, yes.
And work through it.
Absolutely. I've always said, as much as I've got my flat in a state where I'm like, okay, I can sit down and concentrate. I've got this little area, got that little area. So I find it so hard to actually concentrate. So yeah. But yes. Oh, but I forgot to mention, sorry. Happy New Year. Happy holidays.
Oh, yes. Happy New Year to yourself as well.
Well, thank you very much.
And everybody listening.
100%. I hope everyone had a nice little break.
Did you get anything photography related in your Christmas sock? Or should I be stocking rather than sock?
Yeah. No, didn't actually.
Nothing at all?
No, nothing, which is fine. Which is absolutely fine. Although you're going to get something photography soon from me.
Am I? Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're going to hate me for it, though.
Oh, God. Okay. That's apprehensive.
It's something you've mentioned, and I went, oh, this will wind him up. But in a positive way, not that I would go out of my way to really annoy you. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to see what I can do to annoy you as well.
Sorry, just again, me and Kev have been chatting like the last, actually practically 24 hours. We've just been, we
haven't been talking solidly for 24 hours.
No, but like in the 24-hour period, there's no one else I've spoken to but Kev. And
Right. Okay.
because we're arranging a lot of things soon. Yes, soon. And we're exchanging ideas and things like that. So and yes, we're going to be sick of each other, I think, by Sunday. I hope not, but if we are going to get sick of each other by Sunday, we can go, thank fuck for that. We can just never call me again
for a while. Yeah, exactly. Like getting a divorce finally.
Thanks, Kev. I'm not taking the custody of your kids, all right? I ain't taking your kids.
all our cats, you mean?
All the cats as well. Cats and your kids, both of them.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh man. So sorry, again, almost forgot my format. Kev, how's the last 7 days, or generally, how have you been, really?
Okay. Been just quite quiet over Christmas, so spent it here at home. So either celebrating with my 2 people we live with and our 5 cats, or sitting at my desk doing some accounting work. Haven't really done much in the way of photography for the last couple of weeks, but weather's not been particularly nice outside.
No.
But we'll be sheltered in the studio when we get back in there towards the end of the week. So
yes,
hopefully that should be good.
But
I seem to be getting severe weather warnings almost every day at the moment.
Oh God, yes,
which is not great.
It's not. No, but I mean, should I mention it? I was going to say there's a lot of like going on around the world, like especially recently Japan.
Oh God, yeah.
Hope everyone's safe. I just hope I was flicking through TikTok and there was a Twitch streamer who was live and caught it as the building was shaking. And you hear the alert off the phone, and then you went, right, I've got to go, and the stream is still going, and it's both fascinating and disturbing at the same time. It's just God, yes, but yes, I hope.
Yeah, we're lucky. If we're just getting a lot of wind and rain and a small tornado, then
exactly. I was like, I was saying to someone, I was thinking about going to Iceland, and said, it's going to erupt soon. I went, Jesus Christ, I can't go anywhere.
No,
it's not fair. I just want to go somewhere.
I had a story about the last time the Icelandic volcano erupted. My sister was away in Europe, and she'd gone on holiday, taking my father away for a trip.
Yeah.
And then the Icelandic volcano erupted and all flights were grounded. So I sent a text to my sister saying, hope you're okay. I've heard about the volcanic eruption. Hope you'll be able to get home okay.
Yeah.
And she sent me a very sweary text back telling me to F off and stop being a dick and all the rest of it. Because what I hadn't realised was at the time was she was halfway walking up Vesuvius.
Oh!
And she thought I was just taking the piss, basically.
Oh dear!
It was just a timing thing, but she sent a very rude email, or very rude text, I should say. So
that is very, very, very rude. I think my story about that that volcano is that I missed it by 1 day. I was visiting Ireland, and the ash cloud affected flights between Ireland and
it grounded flights across the whole of Europe.
So I was just like, oh, okay. So it's like, I don't know if I was counting my blessings or not, but so missed it by a day. So
well, they ended up stuck in Italy for a few days, and then having to get a coach all the way back from Italy all the way back to England. So that took, I think, a couple of days on a coach, basically.
Well, at least we've got no experience about being trapped in another country last year. So
no, not at all. Not at all. But Netherlands, is not the end of the world, and it's not really a bad place to be stuck, is it?
Very much so. Very much so. Very much so. Anyway, right. So
that's got off the topic, hasn't it?
Yes, it really did. So all right. So podcast. That's right. Okay. So I had a thought. I will admit this 2 hours ago. This was about 2 hours ago. This thought. I thought, I wonder if some people have got new cameras for Christmas or holidays, depending on how you want to celebrate the month of December. And I thought, do you know what? I wonder if people have been given a camera, either like second hand, hand me down, or brand new, and just gone, cool. Where do I start? How do I do this? And I'm sure there's going to be a mixture of like both, self photography, as well as maybe videography and things like that. So, so I thought let's talk about where to start. Really, where'd you go, and what's the best way to go about it? So, Kev, where's a good place to start about when you get a brand new camera? Should we talk about the type of camera?
I would say the first thing to do with any new camera, regardless if it's a point and shoot or a mirrorless or a DSLR, is just to use it. Use it all the time. Just keep using it.
Yes.
Put it into auto to start with. Take pictures. Take pictures of everything. Just have it with you all the time. Make sure you keep charging your batteries up and just keep taking shots, basically. Because that's what will happen is you'll learn what your camera can do and what doesn't work and what does work. And then what doesn't work, you'll see, well, what could I do to make it work, if that makes sense. So, you're taking pictures during the daytime outside in the sun, and it all looks great. And then you're taking pictures when there's a bit lower light, perhaps, or you're taking pictures of something moving, so it's got a bit blurry, or it's getting a bit grainy because everything's in auto. So then you're thinking, okay, so how do I get this shallow depth of field? Start controlling the aperture. How do I get it so it's not so grainy? Maybe opening the aperture and increase and reducing the ISO. Unfortunately, with photography is when you start doing that, you then start coming up against the limitations of what you've actually got and end up buying extra stuff. So you're thinking, okay, so it's a bit shaky, so maybe I need a tripod. And then you're thinking, all right, well, I want to take pictures of somebody, but it's indoors and it's a bit dark, so maybe I need a flash. And before you know it, it's thousands of pounds down the drain.
I love how we've gone from happy holiday, here's a present, to this hobby's going to cost you your life savings, really.
Well, I've seen lots of memes where they say photography is more expensive than drugs, so get your kids hooked on photography.
Oh,
they'll never be able to afford any drugs.
So attest to that. Even though I wanted to take drugs, there's no way. I mean, I know I've joked about, say, cocaine, but generally I can't afford that shit because photography is draining my bank account. So,
absolutely.
Okay, just to take it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's quite interesting. I think I'll start about talking about my photography journey, because I started from a point and shoot, as you said. I love Sony cameras. I really did. I can't remember if mine was a slidey, you just open the shutter door and it was just a single point and shoot. I just love taking photos, and I really enjoyed it. I remember having a Fujitsu at one point. Went back to Sony, and then I decided to say, right, I'm going to get a really high-end changeable lens one. But for some reason, I didn't go for DSLR cameras, which is, what does DSLR? Oh God,
it's digital SLR, so it's DSLR, so it's single lens reflex.
That's it. Thank you.
A single lens, and you look through the lens through to the eye box.
Yes.
I don't know why I'm pointing. You can't see me pointing.
Oh, I do that as well. It's an audio podcast, but I'm pointing everywhere and no one can see me.
Yeah, I'm showing the light going through the lens with my finger, which doesn't really help.
But I didn't get a DSLR camera first. I actually got mirrorless first by accident.
Okay, well, I prefer mirrorless, as you know.
Oh, yeah, so do I. It was a Sony Alpha, and I think it was one of the first brands to bring out, if not the first, one of the first DSLR cameras. And it was, I love how compact it was. The only thing I didn't enjoy was looking through, not a viewfinder, but from the back of the camera, because it made me feel like I had to not have it close to my face, but away from me to get a full picture. And it was like, it kind of worked and it didn't work sometimes. And I felt that every time I used that camera, because of how small it was, I felt kind of like, oh, is this an inferior camera? But it's not. And then I think that's probably the one point to point out, is that I've always said, if someone says to me, oh, what camera should I get? I always say, get the camera you can afford, because it's
Absolutely.
it's not per se the camera that makes a good photo. Yes, it does to a certain extent.
A camera helps you get a good photo.
Yes.
But you can get a good photo with any camera, but it's harder.
Yes.
I think that's how it comes down to, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. So I think the way I looked at myself was that I was going to learn up through the scales. So it's like a point and shoot camera, a small, I thought at the time, a DSLR camera, and then a proper DSLR camera, but on an amateur level, and then move on. So I went from so there's so many terminology that you'll hear, but I think I would say to someone to don't worry about those terminologies yet. The one thing that Kev says, which I will back to the hilt, despite no matter what people say, if you want to shoot in auto, shoot in auto. There is nothing wrong. There's nothing, what's the word? Shameful about shooting in auto.
No.
I think I spent the first 5 years as food and cosplay shooting on automatic. Oh no, wait, that's half a lie. I think I was on automatic on the very small mirrorless camera, the Sony one.
Yeah.
And then went from automatic to aperture priority because I wanted to understand the depth of field because I really love a good creamy blurry pictures.
You like a nice shallow depth of field.
Yes.
Photos,
And then decided to go to manual. And again, I am not ashamed that I went that way and went for that route because I wanted to learn photography bit by bit, step by step, and to learn just doing things in auto. You just point and shoot, let the camera do all the thinking. To aperture priority to get that shallow depth of field, and I could have gone to what's the other one called?
You're gonna have to help me with this because I don't know where you're going.
No, you know the other mode on a camera. There's auto, aperture,
shutter priority.
Yeah, shutter priority. Thank you. And things like that. I could have done that, but I decided not to, and I went straight into manual mode. Yeah, but I'm glad I went through that journey because it made me realise a few things that I don't think if I tried to go straight to manual, I would have done that.
That's a big switch. I got a story where when I was working as a team leader for a photography training company, there was a guy which turned up to one of the sessions and he had the top of the line Canon camera. I think it was a 1DX. I can't remember if it was a 1DX or 1DX Mark II. Yeah. But so he had top of range Canon camera, DSLR, and a really expensive L lens, white lens on it. And he said, so I was asking people, why you're here, what you're hoping to get out of it. And he was saying that he'd had a Canon point and shoot camera. And so he wanted to take better pictures than what he was getting with his point and shoot. So he bought this, top of the range camera. But his pictures looked pretty much the same. And so he wanted to know what he was doing wrong, why, he'd spent all this money, but his photos were the same. And the end of the day, what was happening was the fact that he was using the Canon point and shoot in auto, and he was using the 1DX Mark II in auto. And so it was using the same sort of processing engine and software behind the scenes to make the decisions on how to take the picture. So at the end of the day, the pictures on the cheap point and shoot, pictures on the really expensive DSLR looked pretty similar because he was just letting the camera make all the decisions, and so then he wasn't getting much benefit from having all of this extra capabilities within the camera, because the same decisions were being made by the same processor as to how to take the image. So like I said, getting out there and actually start taking pictures is the best way to actually learn what your camera will do. Yeah. And doing it all on automatic to begin with lets you know what the camera thinks it should do. And then when you start deciding that that's not exactly what you want and thinking about what you'd like the picture to be, that's when you start thinking about, okay, so now I need to take it off auto and putting it into aperture priority is usually the first step.
Yeah.
Shutter priority tends to be if you want to do something with either very fast moving subjects or opposite. You want to do sort of light trails or something like that. So what you tend to find is that because, especially people like ourselves tend to be taking portraits, then the first thing you're going to do when you come off auto is go into aperture priority mode, where you decide the depth of field for the image and then let the camera work out what shutter speed is needed to achieve that depth of field. And a lot of the cameras nowadays, you can also set the ISO, which is the sensitivity. So it used to be the films, you could get how sensitive it was to light. And the ISO is sort of a digital equivalent to that. So you can set that to auto as well. So that you choose your aperture and then let the camera decide what else it needs to change with the shutter and the ISO to make an image. Because that's your three variables, really, when you're looking to control things. It's your ISO, your shutter speed, and the aperture you set. And the aperture basically is how open the lens is or how shut down it is with little aperture blades inside the lens. So that's your exposure triangle, those three items. And if you leave it in automatic, then the camera decides each of those three, what it's going to prioritize, and you don't get a say in it. Whereas if you go into aperture priority, you can choose the aperture and let the camera choose the other two. Or if you go into, same with shutter priority, you choose shutter priority, choose the shutter speed you want, either very, very slow or perhaps quite fast.
Yeah.
And then you let the camera decide on the other two settings. So, it tends to be, like I said, you start off with automatic, you get familiar with it, then you decide, oh, no, I want more bit shallow depth of field on this. I like that creamy, blurred out background, so let's try that. And then from that, you'll decide, okay, now it's done that, but everything's a bit too bright. So now I need to go into manual mode and start controlling those other two variables as well. So that's how you then eventually move on to, I believe, manual. But if you're going straight from, picking up a camera and going straight into manual to start with, that can be quite hard. One of the advantages is of the mirrorless cameras is, of course, that you can actually see what your picture is going to look like before you even press the button. So that makes manual a lot easier to get to grips with if you're using a mirrorless, because you can actually put it into manual. You can turn your aperture and you can turn your shutter speed and actually see what it's going to do to the image. So it always gives you an idea of where you're going before you do it. But then you've got constraints. So if you're making things too slow, you're going to get more blur in it. If you're making your aperture wide open completely, then your depth of field might be so shallow that only the eyeballs in focus and nose and ears are out of focus, or his nose and ears. So it's all compromise and deciding exactly what you want to do. But that's when you can get creative with it. But at the end of the day, I think start with automatic and then take it from there.
Yeah, I couldn't. If I wanted to disagree with you, I couldn't. So, there's a lot of things that I've said to people as well. And yeah, I think another point we should make is also if you do have an interchangeable lens camera, such as a mirrorless or a DSLR camera, people will say, "Oh, what lens do you have, or what lens should I get for it?" And the one I would talk about, what I would like to say, is the is commonly known as in the industry the Nifty 50, the 50mm lens. And you can talk about the f-stop of 1.8, 1.4. I'm sure Kev will talk about it in a more comprehensive way than I will talk about f-stop. But what is the difference between a prime lens and a kit lens?
Some of it depends. Nowadays, not a lot. So some of the kit lenses are really, really good. So a lot of people knock the kit lenses because what used to happen was you'd buy a camera kit, either mirrorless or DSLR, and it would come with the body, and the kit would include a lens. Whereas you could also buy a kit which was just the body only. So your last camera you bought, I presume, was just a body only, was it?
What, my R6?
Yeah.
Yes, it was just no. It came with a kit lens.
It did come with a kit lens.
Yes, I just choose not to use it.
Yeah, okay. But a lot of times nowadays, I think the last few cameras I've bought have always just been body only, because I've already got a selection of lenses and don't need any more lenses for them. So yeah, but like I said, some so 50mm it tends to be what the so you're talking about the nifty 50 tends to be one of the most popular lenses because that's a normal field of view. So if you're looking at something and you put a 50mm lens on your camera and look through the camera, you're going to be seeing a similar magnification and view as if you were looking without a camera. So 50mm tends to be one of the more popular lenses to use, and most of the manufacturers tend to have a fairly cheap, fairly plasticky 50mm lens, prime lens that you can buy for their system, which has quite a wide aperture, so which is a small number. It's like 1.8 you were saying before.
Yes.
So you can let lots of light on and get a nice smooth background. Whereas those 50mm nifty 50s, you're saying, because they're quite plasticky and because they're mass produced more than probably any other lens, the prices of those are fairly cheap compared to other lenses. Whereas what you tend to get with a kit lens is you'll get a small zoom. Now they vary from manufacturer to manufacturer, and they can also change from camera to camera, but they tend to cover a little bit wider than 50mm and perhaps a little bit more telephoto than 50mm.
Yeah.
But either way, it's covering that same sort of range, but it won't open up as far as, say, 1.8. It'll be 2.8 or perhaps an aperture of 4, which means it's you won't be getting quite so much quite such a shallow depth of field, so you won't get quite so much of that bokeh, which is the smoothish background with nice little light bubbles or diamonds or pentagons or whatever shape.
Oh yeah.
So but the quality wise nowadays, you look at cameras and you look at lenses, they're pretty damn good.
Oh no, absolutely. Because I was going to say, because also you could talk about why different lenses cost so much, and it's not the range it does, it's the quality of the lenses inside. Because they always say, just to take it back a moment, if you're going to go and pick up a camera, the first thing is actually not picking the camera; it's actually picking the camera product, the family that you're going to go. Do you go Canon? Do you go Nikon? Do you go Fuji? Do you go Sony? Because yes, you can get adapters for it, but the lenses for it kind of stays within its own, and the lenses you can carry those lenses more or less from your first camera forward. There are some discrepancy here and there, but effectively they will work interchangeable from one Canon camera to another Canon camera, a Nikon camera to a Nikon camera, those type of things. So,
although having said that, I was Canon for many, many, many years, but then I swapped. And a lot of people have been Canon, Nikon, and have swapped in the last sort of 10 years. Because I swapped to Fuji, but a lot of people swapped to Sony. So,
oh yeah.
So then it's a case of there's a big secondhand market. You don't have to buy new lenses. There's if you go to sites like MPB, there's a thriving market to sell and buy secondhand products. So, because what you tend to find is as soon as you buy your camera body, it's going to start losing value. Lenses, not so much. Lenses can hold their value quite well. But what you tend to find with lenses is, you're right, there's some extraordinarily expensive lenses, but you'll try and look for a sweet spot between price and performance, because it gets exponentially more expensive, microscopic improvements. So, you can get really, really good. That's one of the reasons I'm with Fuji, is not just for the fact that I needed a smaller body camera and less weight to shoot with, but because the lenses were smaller, because it's an APS-C camera rather than full frame, which is just the size of a sensor. So because the sensor's a little bit smaller, it means the lenses can be a little bit smaller, but they were also significantly cheaper than the Canon lenses. And Canon's new lenses for their big RF digital mirrorless cameras are extraordinarily expensive.
Oh no, absolutely. As you mentioned APC, let's talk about very briefly the difference between APC, is it micro 3/4 and
4/3,
and full frame.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Full frame's easy to say. It's just the standard 35mm film that in olden cameras used to be in. That's the size of a full frame
Okay.
sensor.
Let's right. So yeah. So we'll start with what people call full frame, which is, as you're saying, it means the sensor's about the size of a 35mm piece of film, and then anything bigger than that is called medium format.
Yes, I've just recently learned
that. But there are various different sizes of medium format.
Oh, God.
So just because somebody says medium format, they're not all the same. Different cameras have different size sensors in, but anything bigger than 35mm is automatically called medium format. APS-C was a film size which was a little bit less than full frame, and some cameras, I can't remember which ones now, it might have been the 1DX thinking about it, but some of them APS-H, which is another size of APS film. So but what you tend to find is that the smallest one is Micro Four Thirds, which was Olympus, but it's not called Olympus anymore, it's called something else, could be System 1, I can't remember, and Panasonic. It was a joint venture between a couple of different manufacturers to make a very small sensor camera. So it's bigger than the sensor you got in your phone, but it's not a lot bigger.
Yeah.
APS-C and full frame. Okay, you're talking about it being a little bit bigger, the full frame than the APS-C. Not a huge difference. And then when you get to medium format, then basically it can be quite a bit bigger than a full frame sensor. But then you're saying, well, what's the advantage of having a larger sensor? And the main thing is it's the ability for the camera to collect light. Over if it's got a bigger surface area, then it can collect more light, basically. But there are some caveats to that. What you used to find was that the more megapixels you crammed onto a sensor, the less space there was around those pixels for it actually to absorb the light coming in through the lens. So you'd get, you could have a huge number of megapixels on a full frame camera, but you're actually getting less light hitting the sensor than if you had the same sensor size but a lot less megapixels. So that's why you'll tend to find something like some of the Sony cameras, which are specifically for filming rather than photography, will have the same size sensor as their photography lens, but a hell of a lot less megapixels. And that's basically to improve performance for things like low light, when the number of megapixels you got really doesn't matter. How many megapixels has your new camera got then?
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say 24. So let me just Google that now.
Okay, so that's quite low, which is a reasonable number, especially considering because it is a full frame camera, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely a full frame camera. R6 Mark II. Yes, I'm not a robot. I have feelings.
You can't express them.
Oh yeah. It says here. So yeah, it says from the Amazon website on the Google search. Canon EOS R6 Mark II full frame mirrorless camera, 24.2 megapixels.
Yeah, which is, I think my Fuji is quite a few years old now, and that's an APS-C, and that's got about 21 megapixels.
Yeah.
And then you see some of the new Sony cameras, which have got, ridiculous amounts of megapixels on them. Don't worry about how many megapixels you got. Megapixels can be useful if you're a wildlife shooter or something like that, and you want to take a picture from miles away, and then maybe crop into a part of it, which is some eagle flying from sort of 10 miles away or something.
Yeah.
So, but as far as regular photography goes, a big sensor and fewer megapixels can help with low light photography. More megapixels is great if you're going to just shoot willy-nilly and then do a heavy crop later. But you see phones now which have got tiny sensors inside, and they've got sort of 50 megapixels or something. You're thinking,
I remember
why?
years and years ago, Nokia brought out a camera, the Pure View camera, which said it was a yellow phone, you can't miss it, and I'm sure it said to claim 100 megapixels. I went, but why? Why would you need a sensor that big in a sense? But the way it took the photos, it did. I think it took full photo and stitched together. So that's
all right. So it wasn't really probably.
I don't think so. I could be wrong.
25 or 20 megapixels and stitching 5 of them together or something.
Something like that. Yeah. Just to give you context, my last Canon camera was a EOS 6D. The megapixels 20.2. So I'm only
so not much of a change in, really, is it?
It really hasn't, and I've not noticed. I'm not going, oh my god, the quality is jumped a huge, because that's not what I'm looking for per se. I want to say, in a sense, when I got the R6, for me, and I will say this for me, I wanted to, one, move with the times, but secondly, have a lighter camera rig, which in a sense hasn't actually been that successful.
You needed to go to a small APS-C to get a smaller, lighter rig. Because the thing is, if you're most of the weight is in the lenses. And I've got to say, those lenses on Canon does, they're not light.
God, they are so not. I've got a proper Canon 50mm 1.4, and then a Sigma 70 to 200mm zoom lens. So they're not light. So but
are these RF mount, or are these with an adapter?
That's with they're now with a mount to go onto the mirrorless camera. So whilst we're still talking about lenses, actually, just to close this off, what besides the Nifty 50, because I always believe that's a good starter lens, because I feel I got a lot of use out of the Nifty 50, and like you said, it's cheap. It's mass produced.
A good thing. I think the Nifty 50 is the best thing for somebody starting out in photography, because it gives you a good way of controlling your depth of field, and you're not going to worry about zooming in or zooming out. If you want to zoom in or zoom out, you have to use your feet.
Or as I call it, mum zoom.
Okay.
Oh no, I tell her, oh, you can zoom in by pinching on the screen. She goes, oh no, I just stepped closer. I went, in a sense, you're more right actually that way, and things like that.
But so I think that's the best starting lens. It is a 50mm. But then if you're saying what other lenses should people be thinking about?
Well, I'm not saying thinking of, but I'm sure that there's going to be a conversation where you're going to talk to another photographer and say, oh, what lens do you have? I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to other photographers and compare, and I literally have my finger quotes in the air, but you're going to have that conversation anyway. So
shall I go through what my lenses are and what I use?
I bet you've got one of these two lenses. It's either the 35mm or the 85mm.
Yeah, I would say right. So mine's an APS-C, so I'm going to give the equivalent as being full frame. So you're right. The two lenses which spend almost all of their time on my camera is either the 35mm equivalent or the 85mm equivalent, and it's one or the other. And if I'm just doing straight up portraits of somebody, then I use the 85mm. And if I want to do a shot of somebody but have them in an environment and get more of the environment in, then it's for 35mm.
Yeah.
So while we were saying the 50mm is the sort of a nice middle ground,
yes,
it's exactly what you're looking at basically. The 35mm gives a slightly wider view. And the 85mm is more concentrating on the subject. So, but you're right. They're my two lenses that I use all the time. I don't actually have a lens. Well, no, that's not true. I do have a 50mm lens on my for my camera, but I use it for my Teams meetings and Zoom calls on my one I've got set up here at home, and I don't actually use it taking out in the wild anymore. But you're right. They're my two everyday workaholic lenses. Is the 35 equivalent and the 85 equivalent. And when I've got two lenses, I only use if I'm specifically know that there's something I want to take with them.
Yeah,
and they're both zooms. So I'm like I said, 90% of the time using those two prime lenses, which are just fixed at that distance.
Yeah.
But then I've got two lenses which go either side. So I've got a 10 to 20 millimeter zoom lens, and I've got a 70 to 200 zoom lens. So basically, for those times when I need a wide shot, or I want to exaggerate something, because wide angle lenses are very good for, say, if you're shooting down somebody's arm or foot or something to distort part of a body. And then the telephoto is if you're taking a shot from further away. So with my telephoto, though, I've also got a 1.4 times teleconverter. Ooh. So basically, I can stick that between the lens and the camera, so then it adds 1.4 times the focal length. But I lose a stop of light by putting that in. So that's if I was taking pictures of cosplayers on the stage at an event, then I'd be using the zoom lens. And if it's a big event, like when I was going to Japan Expo and you're sitting miles away from the stage, then I'll put the teleconverter on.
No, absolutely. And just to say, if there's things that we're saying, you're going, I have no idea what these two are talking about. Don't worry. I was where you are, and there's still things today I'm going, I have no idea what's going on. But
we are talking about a bit more advanced now. Like I said, stick with your nifty 50 or stick with your kit lens. And then only when you start finding that a bit restrictive for the shot you're trying to get is then you start thinking about, okay, so what do I need to do to overcome this hurdle? And this is why we're saying it can get quite expensive, because you're thinking, I really want to get a bit wider than this, and I can't get far enough back to get the shot, so I need a slightly wider lens.
But honestly, but the thing is, when you start getting to a point when you hit a wall and then you start like researching, what do I need to do this, and you go, hang on, I recognize this terminology. Oh, that's it, those two guys on that podcast was mentioning it. So you'll flash back to this moment and go, oh, that's what they mean by a wide aperture or wide lens and things like that. I would say also, once you pick your camera brand and your the style that you're going for or the lens you're going for, and you're learning your own thing, when you're meeting up with other photographers, do ask, what camera do you have? If you've got the similar family, then I would when it's appropriate to ask, oh, can I try out the lens? Because that's a really good way of finding out what lenses work.
I'd say only do this with somebody you're actually very familiar with.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think most photographers won't want to lend their lens to a total stranger.
I don't I'm not saying I don't mind, but I'm willing to say, oh, you're at Canon, do you want to try out my 70-200? These lenses are expensive to buy, and you don't want to buy and then go, oh, this is not what I expected. No. So that's what I was...
That's very true. You can hire. Nowadays, I don't buy new. So I would say, if you're thinking about a lens, buying a lens, then have a look on sites like mpb. I think it's .com, isn't it? Because that's probably the safest way to buy secondhand camera gear in the UK. I would say still stay well clear of Facebook Marketplace. I've heard of so many scams, people selling cameras and lenses on Facebook Marketplace. So yeah, I couldn't recommend that at all.
That's a good tip.
But then eBay can be very hit and miss. I've had some good luck on eBay, and I've had some terrible luck on eBay. So, but MPB, it's all tested. It'll come with a short guarantee as well. But if it's still quite expensive and you're not sure what to do, then go to one of the higher places and hire something out. One of the people I live with does a lot of videography, and for a few events he was hiring a couple of bits of gear from Wex because it's not that far away from us. So just pop along, pick it up before the event, use it, and return it afterwards. And after hiring it a couple of times and getting really good results with it, then he went onto one of the websites and placed an order to buy one. You don't have to be close to a Wex. There's places like lensesforhire.co.uk, which is where, when I was still a Canon shooter, I rented a few lenses for them for specific events for lenses that I didn't actually own. And there's lots of other places as well. So if you're thinking, well, this lens is going to cost me £900 or something, I don't want to just pay out £900, and you don't know anybody that can just let you play with it and see what you like, what it's like to use, then maybe hire it for a weekend and see how you get on with it. And a lot of these places like Wex, where which actually sell lenses as well. If you were going to buy it new, you can hire a lens, and then if you go ahead and decide to buy it, they often offer you a discount off it because from the hire. So just something else to think about. But yeah, it can get very expensive.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was trying to give that tip out. Like, if you can, with permission, either from a fellow photographer or, like you said, go to a loan place. That'll be a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Talking about other photographers, I was going to say, now that we're talking about the camera, we're talking about the lens. Obviously the best advice is just to go out and take photos. But I mean, when I first started, I remember just going to every photographer and saying, "Oh, what do I do? How do I do this? How do I do it?" Is that a good way of like approaching, in a sense, both skill and confidence in a style? Is it good to copy someone's work?
Yes. Copying somebody's work is probably. I'm not saying I'd say being inspired by somebody, perhaps, but yeah. Actually, what I would say is have a look what's going on in your locality. When I got back into photography, well, no, that's wrong. When I was looking to change from film photography into digital photography, when digital photography was just kicking off, I signed up and did an Open University course, which was every week we'd have a project, and we'd be in little groups. So we'd take our photos for that week, we'd upload our photos, and then you talk about them in your little group. But the little group, was supporting each other. So that was a good way of learning stuff. And each week, you'd have this task to do, and a little support group to go through it with each other to see how you get on. But then I went to evening class at my local night school and did a Photoshop course. And that was just at night school through the council. So have a look on the local college website and see what night schools they've got, going, and see if there's, a course you can sign up for that. I do think that things like that, or, you can look on Facebook, and there's usually camera meetup groups in most towns and cities. I prefer something like that to just learning stuff off YouTube, because you can go, if you look at a video on YouTube, you can find anything explaining anything, but it's not the same as physically being with other people and actually discussing with it, and then asking questions, and getting help from people, and doing it all together. So, okay, I might be biased because I was a team leader for a photography training company, so but I do think that YouTube's great, and you can learn pretty much anything from YouTube. But I don't think anything beats actually meeting up with other photographers and doing things together.
Absolutely. Just to interject, just to say, if you're going to go down the YouTube route, do yourself a favor. Learn one thing from that video. If they give you like lots of tips or lots of technique, learn the one technique first. Get that down to a T before moving on to the next one that you would like to try. I think if you try to do if they said there's 5 techniques, you do all 5, you might get a bit confused. You might get a bit lost. You might go, oh, have I done this? Have I done that? I would always just say, oh, right. They did this with the camera. They opened up the shutter speed so that you can do light painting. How do I do that? Right. Do that, and then you can try it with torches or with in a safe manner, an open flame, things like that. So you get those techniques down. Doing did you say studio day? Sorry.
No, I was saying basically, if you look on Facebook or if you look on
groups,
Meetup, then there's usually lots of, most towns have got meetups and things with people. So you go out shooting around your town or something.
No, absolutely.
It's a great way of talking to people about your photography.
Absolutely, which brings me back to a story that I remember going to a studio day. This is the first time sorry to keep mentioning this studio, but Montreux Studio. This is the first time I've been to that studio. I went, oh my God, this is brilliant. And they're like, it was like 4 other photographers there. We had models to shoot with. And I was the youngest thing there. I'm going, oh God, and you should never judge a book by its cover.
And you're not that young.
I'm not that young, but even I thought, whoa, I'm young. And these 4 gentlemen, and I thought, oh my God, they look so more experienced than I was. And I just, oh God, they're going to like wipe the floor with their photography compared to mine. And I know you shouldn't do that, but obviously these are the things that run through your brain. And I remember we like halfway through the day we sat down and we were talking, and this is a great way of talking to people about about other people's skills. Then you can learn from each other. And they all said, "Oh no, I just do landscape photography. I don't do portrait photography. This is all new to me." And I went, "Oh wow, this is really interesting." So you can still learn from other people, but there's like so many different, in a sense, category of photography. There's like portrait photography, landscape photography, product photography.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always, every year I try and learn, go to something and learn a different style. Okay, I concentrate on portrait photography, but I've been to lessons on how to improve my pin-up photography. I did that a few years ago. Another time you go to something to learn about how to take good boudoir photography. Because these are all different styles of portrait photography. So it's all portrait photography. But if I shot, in the style of pin-up, it wouldn't be the same as if I shot in the style of, horror for, say, Blair Witch or something.
Yeah.
So, there's always stuff to learn.
Absolutely.
And so I've been doing this a long time, and I'm always trying to look for new things to learn. I think we were talking recently about shooting at night with light trails and stuff like that, and that's a completely different sort of thing. And you're talking about your guys who did landscape photography. I can't shoot a landscape to save my life.
No, same, absolutely. Like street photography as well. I think I was with some friends doing street photography, and I went, "Oh my god, I can't. I don't think for some reason my brain can't switch into that mode and take photos." So yeah, so if anyone says, "Oh, photography is just point and shoot," yes, that's correct, but also no at the same time. The different aspects of it to get it looking at a certain way, and the reasoning behind why this photo works and it doesn't work in others. There is a reason behind it, and don't feel disheartened if you say, "Oh, I'm going to try landscape photography," and go, "Oh God, why is that wrong?" Type of thing. That's natural, I think.
Yeah, you take a picture of, if I take a picture of a river and a tree and a hill, it looks like, say my mum took it on her Instamatic, sort of 60 years ago or something, and you're thinking styles change, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know how to take this shot to make this shot look, stunning or memorable or anything. To me, it's just a field and it's got a sheep in it. It's. I just can't do it. I just don't get it.
No, absolutely, 100% with you. And I'd also would say, if you can find studio days where you can, the open, have in a sense an open day, or you could pay to go just to use their studio, and there's already a model there. Go for it. Just those type of things. Yes, they cost money, but actually you'll learn so much from those days. From you sound like you're about to interject, Kev.
No. I was saying watch this space.
Oh yes. Oh well. Yes. Hopefully, watch this space. I might. So just jump ahead a little bit. I might be trying to host photo studio days, either myself or Kev, or jointly. But yeah. But I was going to say, Kev, last year. Yes, now I say last year. We were in his studio, and he said, "Oh, we're going to try this technique and do that." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" I kind of had a idea about it, but never really gone through for it. And then because Kev started doing it, I went, "Okay, I can jump on board and like catch on his coattails and like quickly see what I can do." I was like, it's a really good way to expand your style, your experience, your skill set. And again, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean it's a failure. You just learned something that said, okay, if I'm going to do it this way, I can't do it in that way. I have to find a different way to shoot this type of photography in this environment, which, shooting from indoors to outdoors, it's going to take different aspects.
Well, that reminds me of, failure is not a bad thing. I remember it was not the last VeeCon, but the one before that, which was pre-pandemic, must have been,
Yes.
where we were out in the Netherlands taking pictures around the swimming pool, and I tried to do photos underwater. And I'd borrowed some underwater lighting, but the water was so murky, and the camera wasn't shooting particularly fast, and it just didn't work. We spent several hours at it trying to get it to work, but it just didn't. And some days you've just got to say, okay, well, we've done our best, we've tried our best, but this isn't it. It's just not happening. So and sometimes it's that the vision you had doesn't work on the day. Sometimes it's the technology you've got isn't up to the task. Sometimes it's the situation you're in just makes it not happen. So just because you've got an idea which you visualized and you spent quite a lot of time planning it, really don't beat yourself up if it doesn't work. Just think about, is this something I could do in a different way and make it work, or is this just something which isn't practical with the gear I've got, and and just say, okay, so this isn't going to work. I'm not going to spend any more time on it. Let's move on to something else. So I've seen other people now take pictures, at VinCon where we've been shooting now in the daytime rather than nighttime, and they've got proper, there's much more proper underwater cameras. I think you had your phone in a proper underwater housing, didn't you? And that worked actually quite well, surprisingly well, apart from when it hit the water and kept switching itself off. But
yeah,
but actually, the pictures from underwater were okay.
Yeah, they really were, and I was amazed that sticking my mobile phone in that casing and just jumping, because honestly, it's my pride and joy of the phone. I don't want to get it wet. I'm like, oh, will it work? Oh god, because I don't want it not working the technique, but I don't want it not working because of water damage. So me jumping in each time, and I had to do it like 4 or 5 times doing it. I went, oh god. So no, it's quite interesting. I was going back to my studio day thing, because I think it is good to do those studio days, because there are some studios that will give you lights to play with. Like I said, you can talk to other photographers about how you do. You think, if you look at other people's back of cameras and go, how did you do that? And you can mimic what they do. I know I used earlier in the conversation copying, and I think it's good to work out how someone's done the photo, but it's a better etiquette to try to develop your own style from it.
Yeah, but as I said, we all, I've been to so many events where you see something, say, I really like that. I'm going to jump in and take a picture. God, who was it that we were at Montrose and I did the Purge photo with my blue light? I can't remember, who was it? Was it Michelle? I can't remember who we were shooting.
Yeah, that was Michelle, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so I set that up and took a picture, and I think you and James were both there.
Yeah,
and then you both jumped in and took exactly the same picture.
Yes, I know. which I kind of try to do a little bit different, but like from that moment,
I've no problem with that, and it came out really well.
Yeah.
So I said, the fact that we all got a picture doesn't isn't a problem.
I was going to say, from that moment, I learned something from that moment, and then I remember doing a Star Wars photo with a lightsaber, and I thought, let's have no lights. Use that as the lightsaber as a highlight to fill the back of around the person, and in a sense silhouette the person. So
exactly. Sometimes you don't have to light the person; you can just light the environment and leave the person in shade.
Absolutely, yeah. And I really like that thing. But yes, I was going to say so. I mean, I was going to say. Every genesis of an idea started years and years ago, so we've all copied from someone anyway. But so it's good to like develop your style where you can and things like that. I'm trying to think anything else with a camera we could advise. I mean, the one that we've both always says that if you didn't get a camera for the holidays, using a mobile phone, it's absolutely fine.
Absolutely.
So some of these techniques that we've said won't work really with a camera phone, but
I think most of them probably will, but you don't want to use the native phone app. Most of them you can download programs that will take control of your camera and let you have proper full manual control, and you can get that both on Android and iOS.
Yes,
and then you can play around with your shutter speeds and your apertures and your ISOs.
I think because I think the closest mobile phone that can do manual control natively without downloading a separate app is the Sony Xperia cameras. They are every time I watch a movie review, a tech review of those phones, they do come out quite well. That they are rated quite closely to a.
But like I said, you can get the programs to do it yourself on all of the operating systems anyway. So you can get some fantastic pictures. My mobile phone's piece of crap. It's very old, which might be being replaced tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see.
Oh, okay.
But either way, it's you start out with your phone. Then nowadays, I couldn't really recommend, if you were thinking about getting a camera, maybe you've got some money for Christmas, I couldn't really recommend a point and shoot anymore. I think you can get some secondhand mirrorless cameras now for very reasonable prices. Once again, have a look at MPB, see what they've got to offer. But I think you can get. Just bear with me a moment.
While you're doing that,
MPB.
I was going back to my studio day that I was first at Montrose Studio.
Yeah.
I remember giving out. Sorry, this thought came to me just now. When we were talking about with the other photographers, they said, "Oh, I'd love to do more portrait photography." The one thing I said was, which is something that Kev alluded to earlier, was I said go to Comic-Con because there's going to be hundreds of people who want their photos taken. The act of going out there and taking photos repeatedly, photo after photo after photo, you learn something from each photo. You'll either learn, oh, this environment doesn't work, or, oh, people are going here. Why are people going here? Things like that. Or, okay, you want this type of action pose. Do I want to do it straight on, from below, from above? Do I want to be far away, close up? Do I want to do...
You've got to find the grey walls and shoot against the
No! I was hoping to go through the whole of 2024, not mentioning the grey walls. No, God damn it!
You can't leave it.
No, I can't. I really can't. I just can't. No. That would have been a hell of a feat to avoid mentioning about the grey walls. No, but generally,
But I was looking on MPB just now, and you can get something like a Fuji XE2. Which is a quite an old mirrorless camera now, and they're selling them for 334 quid.
Oh, yeah.
There's another one, 284 quid.
Yeah.
There's one here which that's spare parts, so yes, don't buy that one. But 284 quid is good condition. But like I said, that camera is quite an old camera.
Yeah.
But so I would say just find a cheap mirrorless camera, and you can pick up a fairly cheap lens as well.
Yeah.
Maybe spending 300-400 quid, but it does make sense to choose a system which you think you can grow into. Obviously I'm a Fuji shooter and you're a Canon shooter, but there's no bad brands these days. And I personally wouldn't worry about whether it's a smaller sensor like an APS-C or a full frame sensor. It doesn't really matter.
Absolutely.
The difference between the two isn't great unless you're in the most extreme situations.
Absolutely.
Shoot in a dark room without any lights on or something ridiculous.
I was going to say, because it's more, for me, I would say it's more important to develop your skills than the equipment in your hand. I mean, I started, like you said, I didn't start with a full frame sensor. I started with the Canon 60D, which was an APC. I think it was APC. Oh, let me.
Yeah, it was an APS-C.
Yeah, APS-C.
60D was.
So so I did again. If I really looked at my photos, I don't think, besides the quality of how the photo was taken, the actual photo itself is no different from those photos to the 6D to my R6. Really, if I'm honest.
And I had a Canon 5D Mark II, and I sold that to switch over to an APS-C. So so I've gone from full frame to APS-C. I've gone the other way. So and I didn't feel like I was losing anything. So it's what have you. But like I said, I do think it's probably, if you are looking to buy something, I would start with a cheaper second-hand mirrorless camera and whatever brand you're looking for. And just pick that up, see how you get on with it, see if photography is for you, learn what you can, talk to other photographers, latch on to a group or go to an event, snap away as much as you can, and then see where that takes you, basically.
No, I absolutely. I would definitely echo those tips because, like I said, during the pandemic, a lot of people would go, "Oh, I need some photos now. Oh, I have to learn take my own photos now." And I did get people to write articles on how to, take self photos and things like that. And and I think some of those people have carried on taking photos as part of their cosplay. So they do, part day, cosplay, part day, taking photos. Like I said, these cameras now can take videos now. I won't talk about too much about video, but at least there's some aspects I would assume that you could take into videography type of thing. But
but what you tend to find is that you're going to need a slightly more expensive, more modern camera to do anything decent for videography, because videography technology has moved quite fast. So when sort of 1080p used to be, oh, that's really high, look at that, it's 1080p, and then it's 2K, and then it's 4K, and then it's 6K, and then it's 8K. I've got to have my 8K video. Yeah.
No.
So yeah.
Oh man, I'll tell you something. Let's I mean, we can talk on and on about starting out as a photographer, but let's kind of round it up. But let's say one thing that you wish someone told you about photography that you didn't got told them, but now. And I'll go first because I think this is fairly trivial, but also real at the same time. For some reason, you'll end up owning hard drives of photos you took 5-10 years ago and still keep them for no reason. But you end up keeping them anyway, and you'll end up going through SD cards or whatever memory card it uses. And again, you just keep buying them, and you just think, oh, 2 will be enough. And then you end up having 20, and you're going, why have I got 20? Why am I storing them on SD cards? Why do I not format them? Oh my God. So prepare to think about when you develop becoming a photographer, it's not just the equipment of photography. You also need hard drive space because, those files get fucking large.
And then you'll end up like me and having to get a server and store them on a server.
I'm trying to avoid that. I was actually over Christmas looking at, if I get a NAS server, I can do it this way and that way. I'm like, no, Ed, no, no. So,
well, my server's actually starting to get a bit full now, so that's a bit worrying.
Yeah, see, so yes,
and that's 24 terabytes. But
oh my goodness, no.
Yeah.
Oh, but yes, that'd be the one thing I would tell a budding photographer about photography that they probably didn't realise.
I would say one thing which you don't think about, but if you start going out to cons and you start carrying cameras and lenses and other bits and pieces with you, make sure you've got insurance. Because for a few different reasons. One, if you're out shooting people out in a location somewhere, you really should have public liability insurance.
No, yeah, absolutely, yes.
Just in case something happens and there's an accident or something. But also, your camera's out there in the wild, and things can happen. So yeah, I've lost lenses when I was out doing a shoot in America. It's not something you should be scrimping on. Both for the public indemnity side of it and the losses, for it. Now, sometimes it might be covered in your home insurance, but some of us have got cameras where it's going to be over the individual item costs for your home insurance. So, you need to make sure you've got proper insurance to cover it. And that's something you don't think about because it's not, that's not fun.
No. And I think I only moan and groan because I'm like, I should be doing that. And I'm
yes.
I am very aware of it because I have broken more lenses that I really care to think about. So
I put my camera bag down on the ground once and it just rolled on its side. I'd left it open.
Ooh.
And my 35mm lens rolled out of the camera bag into a 2-inch puddle.
Oh no! Oh no!
And you're thinking, oh shit!
Oh shit, indeed! Fuck. Right. Okay. Well, as I said, we could be talking about this a lot more. I think if there's, I hope Kev doesn't mind me saying that. If there's anything you want to know about photography, you can go to Kev. Yes.
Yep. You can indeed.
Yes. Yep. So if and also me as well. But my answers may not be as comprehensively good as Kev's. But if people need to find you on the social medias, where can they find you?
Well, my website is kevinpack.co.uk for the regular photography side. My much in need of an update cosplay page is cosplay.co.uk. But you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and Threads and everywhere else.
I swear you said this last time you were on the podcast that you need to update your cosplay.co.uk website.
Yeah, well, and nothing's changed.
Oh god. If anyone needs to find me on the social medias, if you go to foodandcosplay.org/links, that's where you'll find all my social media links, such as Twitter, Threads, Instagram, and other social sites. If you go to foodandcosplay.org generally, you'll find daily cosplay photos and articles here and there. And then if you go to foodandcosplay.org/podcast, you'll find podcasts that I've recorded previously with Kev and any other guests, every other guest, should I say, with other topics about cosplay, photography, Comic-Con, and you name it, it's all there, plus other things as well. And if you go to patreon.com/foodandcosplay, you'll hear me and Kev talk about a little bit further about, do you know what's the start of the year? Let's talk about, in inverted commas, goals for 2024. I don't setting goals, but let's just talk about it anyway, because like I said, we were talking about studio hire that we might do in the future, so we'll take it in there, and hopefully you'll come over there and give it a listen. So is there anything else we should quickly mention here before we head over to the Patreon side?
Have fun.
Yes, good point. Have fun, and and
don't do anything inappropriate.
Yes, don't do anything inappropriate. We have done a podcast about like being a professional what is a professional photographer. I can't remember. It was something. I think we had Charlotte in that one and Siobhan. Or was it with you, Kev?
I can't remember now.
Don't worry. Go to listen to that one at least back of cat. I remember someone very quickly. I was talking to someone who listens to the podcast, and he mentioned to me, "Go, it's really weird." No, he didn't say it was really weird, but he goes, "Until you mentioned on your podcast, I didn't show people the back of the camera, but now I do. Since hearing it on the podcast, he's gone, oh my god, this is what it is." And I just want to do a quick shout out, another shout out. Oh god, I've got to quickly find this person. Give me a second. Give me a second. Oh, come on. You can do this, Ed. You can do it.
Yeah, don't forget, if you are taking pictures of cosplayers, you're collaborating together to do this. So, yeah, as Ed said, it's really important that, you don't just go up to somebody saying, "Do you mind if I take your picture?" and just take a picture and just walk off. Do actually show them a picture and get their contact details so you can send them a copy of it.
I just want to mention David Llewellyn. I hope I pronounced your surname. You came up to me at MCM Birmingham. You wanted to say how you enjoyed the podcast and all that. I was very taken aback because I always worry that I've offended someone and you're there to attack me rather than compliment me. So thank you, David, for coming up to me and say you enjoy the podcast. If you do listen to the podcast and you want to say those type of things, please let me know and I'll try to remember to give you a shout out on the podcast. So now that I remember that one, I said I was going to do it on the first podcast when I came back from MCM Birmingham. So there you go. So anyway, on that note, I'm going to say goodbye and Kev's going to say bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.